Greetings, I'm Demonac, and this appears to be a vlog. Things have been going okay lately. I have a bit of a hard time establishing a schedule. I can feel my sleep getting later and later. It seems to be what naturally happens when I don't have a job making me get up at 6:30 every morning. 6:30? No, I was getting up at 6, before 6 every morning. I've already forgotten how early I used to get up for work. I need to find a place where I have set times when I work on things. It's hard mostly to start things. Once I've got something started, like I just recorded the sound for the next Tales from my D&D campaign video, so I'm hoping that I'll get that done much faster than previous videos from that point. Once I start on it, then I'm sitting there and I need to add this, I need to add that. I will work on it. But getting myself to actually do it, to say, okay, the writing's done, record it, start recording, that's the hard part to motivate. So we'll see how that goes. Actual, D&D's been fun in my campaign. We're doing a dungeon now, which we actually haven't done all that many dungeons, so we're all having fun there. And over the weekend, I also took part in Quill's online D&D campaign, which I'm sure it takes a long time to record 5-6 hours of video and whatever he has to do to that and all the various computer processes, but I assume that's going to be coming out sometime in next week, at least the first bits. We had a lot of fun there. It was a big group, 6 players plus GM. That makes it kind of hard to get a lot of role-playing in, especially when we don't all know each other, but it was a fun dungeon crawl. We ran around and smashed things and did some smart things and a lot of silly ones. Otherwise, I've been catching up on a lot of podcasts and wasting a lot of time playing CardHunters. If you really enjoyed the miniatures-based tactical combat system of 4th edition D&D, if you wish you had something that was like that, but more of it, with more depth and ability to change up your stuff, your abilities, min-max, and also just had a big single-player campaign, so you could just do it whenever you felt like, in small chunks, I think you'll really enjoy CardHunters. Search for it, or I'll put a link down below. I've been playing this game, and it is awesome. It's one of those things where I've been interested in game design for a long time. Whenever there's any opportunity, I'm bugging Quill. I'm like, hey, you should make a game like this, or I have these ideas, or let me design a system for this. Not always all that successful, but I think if I had been really focused on that and was better at it, if I was my best possible self, I think the end goal of what I created would have been something, I would hope, a little bit like CardHunters, because it's brilliant from a game design perspective. The actual gameplay is sort of like tactical miniatures combat. It sets up a small board, it has terrain, they have tons and tons of these different maps, they're pretty simple, and the art style is pretty cool. It looks like you're using nice matte cardboard game pieces, boards, and the miniatures are just cardboard stand-up figurines stuck in a base. That's what the game looks like. It looks really good in that style. It's kind of awesome. In terms of building your characters, initially they start you off with one of each class. You've got a fighter, a mage, and a cleric. You can actually change that up later, but each of your characters, their abilities take the form of a deck of cards. It's like in a CCG, but this brilliant thing they have, you don't build the deck directly. You don't say, okay, I want 3 of this card, 3 of that card, 2 of this one. You build your deck by equipping your character. Each character has a number of equipment slots. You level them up as you go through the campaign until you've unlocked all their equipment slots, and then they have another mechanism of advancement beyond that. But each equipment slot, if you leave it empty, it has a number of cards that'll just be really basic cards and not very good, but sort of functional. And then you take items, the equipment you get, you put it in those slots, and it replaces the default cards. Each piece of equipment is basically a tiny set of cards. Weapons are 6 cards. Most pieces of equipment are 3 or 4 cards. And by combining the versatility of a collectible card-based mechanic where they have all these different cards and you're trying to get them, and the game has a series of turns in which you draw some cards and do some stuff. But for building the deck, it's so much more depth because you can't just say, I'm going to try and get myself 3 of this card because it's the best card for that purpose. It's so much more varied and deep because you have to take them in these sets. So you get stuff where this item has 1 card that's amazing, 2 cards that are okay, and 1 that's not very good, or it might even be 1 card that has a drawback. If you want to use the other cards, you want to use this item, you're forced to include this flaw sort of card in your deck. And when those things come up, you have to play them immediately and give you some kind of disadvantage. They usually last for like 2 or 3 turns. So you get this really interesting thing of trying to balance, and you're not just saying, okay, this one card is better than all the other cards, so that's what I want. You can't simplify it that way. You have much more complex decisions, because you start deciding, well, do I want this weapon? Because weapons have 6 cards. This weapon has 1 really strong attack, 4 reasonably like average to good sort of cards, and then 1 weak card. Am I better off with something that has no weak cards, but where the really good card is less strong? Or am I better off with something that has maybe 2 really strong cards, 2 more cards that are way above average, but that has some kind of major drawback, or maybe 2 major drawbacks that can come up and can mess you up in combat? It's really interesting building your characters, and you basically have 3 decks that you're building, because you have 3 characters and all their equipment to work out. And it also means that you have all this replay value of hunting for more loot. You get more items, and it's sometimes very difficult to compare. These 2 items are very similar. They have sort of similar quality spells on them, but there are differences, and you have to figure out which is better to you. You have to make these decisions, which are meaningful, and yet they're arguable. They're not clear-cut decisions in most cases. The whole thing's awesome. If you like D&D at all, especially if you like the combat in 4th edition, but also just if you like collectible card games, you should check out CardHunters. It's a free-play game. Their monetization mechanic's a little bit weird, but I spent money on it anyway because they deserved it. Anyway, I better get back to work now that I've recorded that video. There's a lot of editing to do. Alright.